Good evening. I'd like to call our business meeting to order. Ms. Wagner, do you have opening comments for us?
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
We request that all cell phones and pagers be turned to vibrate or turned off during the course of the meeting. Thank you. It has become a tradition to honor our nation at each of our board meetings by presenting the colors and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. The colors tonight are being presented by the National Junior ROTC Color Guard from Booker T. Washington High School under the direction of Chief Angel Malone and Lieutenant Commander Alexander. Please rise and remain standing for the presentation of the colors and the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance. We will now have our presentation of colors.
Others. Out. Left. Out. Freeze. Out. Others. Ready. Out.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Others. Ready. Out. 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 Out.
Please be seated. That was very good.
I like to see the kids do that. That's great.
We're going to proceed with our agenda. Next up, we have Superintendent's Report. Dr. Boone.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Jordan, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin the monthly video that we do for NPS highlights, wanted to share a little bit about what we as a nation have been dealing with since last week, a week ago today. The very tragic and horrific mass murder and injuries of students in Parkland, Florida. These are difficult times for school superintendents, for communities. And as such, today, the Region 2 Superintendents Group issued a joint statement as it relates to our feelings around school violence, as well as what actions we're taking and where we're asking the community to support us in dealing with those. Please allow me to share the content of this letter at this time. Dear Hampton Roads families, following last week's school shooting in Florida, we have all experienced a wide range of emotions, from shock and sorrow to anger that something like this could happen. Schools are a place where children deserve to learn free from fear. The responsibility of keeping our schools safe belongs to everyone. In these times of heightened awareness, schools, parents, staff, and the community at large must remain ever vigilant in our efforts. As you know, we have many security measures in place in our schools across Hampton Roads. In addition, the superintendents of the region, we are joining together with local police agencies to address disturbing social media posts or comments made that could be perceived as a threat. Any threat made against any one of our schools, even those made as a joke, will have serious repercussions, including potential criminal charges and a possible recommendation for expulsion from school. We are reinforcing this message with students, and we need your help at home. We all have a responsibility to treat information regarding school safety with caution. The oversharing of misinformation in most cases will create problems, not prevent them. We ask that any social media or other threat be reported directly to law enforcement and school officials, rather than shared through social media channels. Quite simply, if you hear or see something, say something. We also encourage parents and caregivers to monitor students' online activity and to employ these strategies. Know what websites and social media sites your child is using. Look at what they are posting and who they are following. Stress that making a threat is not to be taken lightly and that there are severe consequences. Talk with your child about recent local and national incidents. Explain that feelings such as sadness, anger, disappointment, and fear can be normal responses to tragedies for children and adults. Watch for changes in behavior and seek help if your child needs assistance dealing with anxiety or feeling safe. Contact your child's school and law enforcement if you believe your child is capable of making a threat and following through. Keep an open line of communication with your children and encourage them to tell you or another trusted adult if they become aware of a threat or rumor of violence. Working together at school and at home, we can and will make a difference for our children and our community. You place your trust in us each and every day. As superintendents, we have no greater responsibility than to educate our children in a safe environment where they can learn and grow without carrying the weight of fear and anxiety on their shoulders. Thank you in advance for partnering with us in this important work and for your assistance in keeping our children and communities safe. Sincerely, this is signed by the superintendents of Chesapeake, Franklin, Hampton, Newport News, Norfolk, Poquoson, Portsmouth, Suffolk, Virginia Beach, Williamsburg, James City County, and York County. Unfortunately, we have experienced some social media threats and some verbal threats in a few of our schools this week. I cannot thank the Norfolk Police Department, Chief Boone, and all in his team, along with Mr. Anthony Walker, the district school safety and security director, all members of the district leadership team, all principals and others who have worked so close together almost around the clock since Sunday to help us deal with these threats. You have seen in the media that working together, we've been able to identify alleged suspects, and charges have been filed against most, if not all, of those suspects. We in Norfolk Public Schools take this very seriously. We pray that this is something that would never happen in any school district or another school district. And we thank you all so much for partnering with us to help keep our schools safe. I also want to acknowledge Dr. Kalila LeGrand as the district's communication director, who actually, as the Region 2 superintendents acknowledged today, kind of spearheaded the thought of doing this joint letter. And Dr. LeGrand and her colleagues worked together to come and bring forth a letter that we were ready to endorse and embrace wholeheartedly as superintendents. So we thank you all for your attention to this. We thank you all as parents for choosing Norfolk Public Schools, and we thank everyone for partnering and walking together so that we can make sure schools in Norfolk are as safe as they can be. And so we continue to ask prayers for Florida, for Parkland, Florida. So, Mr. Jordan, don't know if you have comments following this, but then I'm ready to go into our regular monthly report.
Is there anyone like to offer some comment this time, Ms. Doyle?
I would. I do want to also commend Chief Boone. I was at a meeting with Chief Boone on Thursday morning, and it was at the ComStat meeting. And the first question he had out of his mouth before anyone said anything in the room was, what are we doing today with Norfolk Public Schools? And the very first answer was the CROs, the community resource officers, And the school resource officers were collaborating first thing and looking at their schools and assessing any threat concerns. But that was his top of mind. He was not going to listen to anything else in that room until that question was answered and to his standard of acceptance. So I really just want to thank the chief. I also want to thank the division. I think your communication out on this to us and to the community has been very strong. And really, I just think this is a good opportunity showing how we are working very closely with the police department, and I just want to commend them and you all for the very good work moving forward.
Anyone else? So I would just add to that also just thanks to the parents and the community members out there. I know as school board members and administrators, my phone started going off with text messages with community members that had seen some things and wanted to make sure that the school division was aware of it, email messages and phone calls, and all of those messages were referred to the administration for immediate attention, and thank them for their team. I'm not sure how much they've slept over the last several days, but I know at all times of the evening, whenever any type of threat or concern has come forward, those things have been passed on and they've been right on top of it. So I just want to kind of echo what Dr. Boone said in her remarks and those of the other superintendents. Please continue to share information. No concern is too small, and we will continue to be vigilant as a community. And as I've said to several parents, we have a responsibility and opportunity to really take advantage of any moment that we have to talk to our children about these things, both in terms of digital footprint and some things that they may share, but more importantly about the anxieties that they may have, that we can offer some support and hear them, and in some cases as needed provide them with all the supports that they need. So I just want to echo again what's already been said and thank the administration for the work thus far, and let's just continue to work together as one family to address the significance of the concerns today and what may happen at any moment in time. So with that, Dr. Boone, you can continue.
Thank you. And there were two individuals, or one group, one individual that I certainly need to highlight that I didn't a moment ago. And one is City Manager Doug Smith, who reached out to me to say you have the city's full resources at your disposal as you navigate and deal with this situation. And our own NPS school security officers who have been right there lockstep with Mr. Walker and the police as we've investigated these. So we're very appreciative. As we do monthly, the Communications Department and Channel 47 put together an outstanding video to showcase and highlight some of the happenings within Norfolk Public Schools. And so tonight we'd like to share this month's update.
Berkeley Campostella Early Childhood Center's students, staff, and stakeholders celebrated being named an Apple Distinguished School during a special assembly. The program featured several speakers who congratulated the school for this outstanding achievement, and later, teachers and paraprofessionals were recognized for earning their Apple certifications.
The progress is phenomenal. And listen, Dr. White, the principal here, always says college begins at pre-K. College and careers begin at pre-K, and that's so true. And as we think about our district redesign and our focus on literacy and rigor and readiness for higher learning, it starts right here at this foundation. So everything they're getting that's being enhanced by this technology is going to front load their success as they go into kindergarten and the years beyond.
I want our students to become globally competitive. I want to instill in them the love for learning, and that they will take these technology initiatives that are taking place with them as they transfer to other schools and continue to have this innate ability to want to be a STEM learner as they go through their elementary, middle, and high school careers.
Berkeley Campostella received the Distinguished School Award only 2 years after being named an Apple Connected School, making this accomplishment even more impressive. A partnership between Booker T. Washington High School and the company Black Brand led to business owners from around the area interacting with Booker T. students.
We are here at our first annual entrepreneurship fair.
there are approximately 40 African American business owners who are here today to share tips and information with our students about how they can go into business for themselves. While we always promote our students going to college and gaining the skills that they need, we also want to make sure we share with our students what they can do to become business owners so that they can come back into the societies where they've grown up and give back. The students are enjoying it. They're seeing that something as simple as a hobby can turn into a business for them where they can earn 6 and 7 figures. So they are just excited about the exposure, the opportunity, the networking, so that they know that once they graduate from high school, or even while they're still in high school, there's a way for them to be successful.
Senior Jonathan Bryan had what he described as an amazing experience, and he took away some valuable nuggets.
To learn that nobody is low class, that everybody is high class in their own way, that everybody has their own talents, passions, that to chase after your dreams, don't let them just wither away, and to just be yourself. Pass high school and do what you want in life.
Granby High School held their annual CTE Career Fair for juniors and seniors in the school's media center. The event, which is sponsored by the school's Future Business Leaders of America, enabled over 350 students to talk with about 25 vendors throughout the morning. Individuals from several businesses, local colleges, the military, and other groups were all on hand to offer students a variety of options to consider for their futures.
So today is Career Day, annual Career Day, and it's a great chance for students to obtain a lot of information about different fields of work, and they're doing a great deal of networking with different vendors here. We have many ROTC students here, so it's great to see them talk to people who are already in that position and get a first-hand account of what it's like in the future.
We can find all the information online, but it is much more beneficial for someone to speak with someone with the experience of a Marine officer or a Navy officer. I feel like that would be much more beneficial to speak with them and ask for their experience and their advice.
They've definitely responded. They're excited to be able to get out of class and to come down and talk with the employers. So when they found out that Norfolk Emerging Leaders here, there was tons of excitement. They're like, I really need to talk to them because some have participated in the program before in the past, and so they look forward to being able to sign up again.
We take about 250 high school students, and we place them in different departments throughout the city of Norfolk. They include Slover, the libraries, public works. They can work over in City Hall. We have some positions at the zoo. So we're just here advertising that, hoping to get some, hopeful applicants.
I think all schools should have a career fair, and they should all be able to encompass all what the Norfolk and the area, the Hampton Roads, all the opportunities to give the kids to open their mind to explore where they could be and where they want to go for the future. I'm looking forward to talking to more kids to give them an opportunity and talk about not only about what the opportunity with MSC, but just exploring their vision and exploring their pathways and where they want to be at in life.
Nearly 50 businesses, government agencies, and schools were on hand for Norfolk Technical Center's College and Career Fair. Representatives from these various groups spent the morning talking with students about opportunities available to them after high school. This annual event not only provides students with valuable information, it can also be the first step toward a successful career.
Basically, we're just encompassing our mission here at NTC. Our mission here is to prepare students for college, career, and life. So we have a plethora of different organizations here in the community. We have some schools, we have some local businesses, so the students can experience, and in some situations they're taking applications. It allows the students to see the different opportunities that are available for them. It's very important because they can ask a lot of the questions that they may not have the answers to, and being able to ask a physical person compared to having to research it themselves, and also it's a chance for them to make those connections and those relationships with those different organizations.
Us being in Norfolk, we really don't get out as much as we should, so I feel like for us not being able to get out as we should, they came here, and that was a great outlet for us, to see what other opportunities there was for us to, try after high school or even in high school. Some of the jobs that came here today was some jobs that we could do in high school, even if it wasn't like a main position, like an assistant position, or things like that. It was very appreciative of.
Over 100 students in grades 3 through 6 spent a Saturday at Nauticus competing at the annual district-wide science fair. Participants for the fair included all the science fair winners from each elementary and middle school. Volunteer judges from a variety of backgrounds were impressed with the students' knowledge of their projects and the middle school PowerPoint presentations.
It's one of the few times as an adult you can interact with so many different kids at so many different grade levels, and here it's inspiring to see that they're doing this science, getting involved and doing different things, the ideas that they come up with. Some of them I've never even heard of, and it's amazing that, you learn from what they're doing as well.
Creative Nation gave 20 students at Lake Taylor High School tickets to a special screening of the film Black Panther in an effort to help alleviate the hardship of the loss of a classmate. Superintendent Dr. Melinda Boone and School Board Chair Rodney Jordan were also on hand to thank Creative Nation and show their support for these students. Norfolk Public Schools administrators spent a morning gaining plenty of positive energy at the Mid-Year Leadership Institute. The highlight of the event was the formal introduction of the district's theory of action, which focuses on leadership, literacy, rigor, and innovation. To showcase this promise to students, every department did a brief presentation illustrating how they're connecting their daily work to implementation of the theory of action.
Oh, the energy is great. People feel inspired. In fact, one of the presenters said to me moments ago, one of the principals asked, are we going to get to see all the boards? And she said, oh no, there's not enough time. Well, we want to see all the boards. So we see that as a really good sign that the district is coming together as one in support of kids. This is, and we don't say this everywhere we go, but this is our favorite place to work because people are committed to making a difference in the lives of kids, and they come to work every day to do just that.
I think today is really about understanding that it is about all of us, and all of our efforts and what we do individually impacts the district collectively, impacts the district as a whole. And so we all have a part to play in making sure that every student gets the quality instruction that they deserve every day in every classroom by each and every one of us, no exception.
Norview High School was the site of a meet and greet between teachers and their coaches as part of the Teacher in Residence program. This unique partnership between Norfolk Public Schools and Old Dominion University is designed to increase the number of math and science teaching candidates in hard-to-staff schools. The first meeting had attendees learning about a variety of educational topics, including the new Every Student Succeeds Act.
This is the first day that our new cohort of residents meet their coaches. So this is a meet and greet to get to know each other as well as get trained, because this training is so necessary. We have a different style of teaching here going on for this preparation program, and it requires coaching of adults in a different way than perhaps a traditional student-teaching relationship would require. So we really want them to get to know each other, build rapport, and really feel that sense of collaboration.
So the teachers that we already have in place in programs, we've supported them, whether it's through things that they need for the classroom or just being able to reach their students. But actually, it's also just a bit of, checking in with them and seeing what they need and how they're doing. It's awesome. With the teacher shortage in Virginia, period, this is a great way to begin teachers on their career and to have them have this in-classroom training and support.
For more news stories and other information about Norfolk Public Schools, watch NPS Now on WNPS-TV 47 or the NPS website.
Hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed. I mean, again, being able to see all of the great things that are going on in Norfolk Public Schools. You certainly saw, and I like the way Mr. Bell said it from NTC, our focus on college careers and life, and the life piece applies to the adults as we continue to learn to improve the educational opportunities for all of our children. So come back next month and you can see what else is happening in Norfolk Public Schools. That concludes the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you very much. Next we have school board monthly observances. Ms. Banks.
Thank you. We have several observances for the month of March. The first is Music in Our Schools Month. This is an annual celebration during March which engages music educators, students, and communities from around the country in promoting the benefits of high-quality music education programs in schools. The second observance is Youth Art Month, which is a celebration of the visual arts. Youth Art Month encourages support for quality school art programs and promotes art material safety. Art shows, special exhibits, fundraisers, and school and community activities take place annually during March to celebrate visual art in education for grades K through 12. The third observance is National School Social Work Month. Celebrated each month, this is an opportunity for social workers across the country to turn the spotlight on the profession and highlight the important contributions that they make to society. Our nation's more than 650,000 social workers have amazing tenacity and talent. This special day is called Read Across America, which is celebrated on March 2nd. This is a national observance from the National Education Association and is an annual reading motivation and awareness program that calls for every child in every community to celebrate reading on March 2nd, which is the birthday of beloved children's author Dr. Seuss. NEA's Read Across America also provides members, parents, caregivers, and children the resources and activities they need to keep reading throughout the year, 365 days. Next, we celebrate National School Breakfast Week, which is observed March 5th through the 9th. Busy weekday mornings make it a challenge for many families to find time for a healthy breakfast. However, U.S. Department of Agriculture data show that more and more students are starting their day with nutritious breakfasts in their school cafeterias. The school breakfast program currently serves more than 14 million students every day. And our last observance for the month of March is Classified School Employees Week, which is celebrated March 12th through the 16th. The School Board of the City of Norfolk recognizes the important contributions of classified school employees and named the third week of March, Classified School Employee Week. To honor these contributions, classified employees are the heartbeat of our schools, from transporting and feeding students to teaching them vital skills and ensuring that schools are operating smoothly. Classified employees are integral parts of public education. From the time students board a school bus to the time they head home at the end of the day, every aspect of their educational experience is impacted by a classified school employee. Classified school employees make a difference in the daily life of every student, and we thank them for their contributions. Now, the observances are done. We have several recognitions. And our first
Ms. Banks,
recognition.
before you go to
Okay.
before you go to the recognition, just wanted to highlight. All these observances are extremely important, and I know we'll be out celebrating them all. I did want to share with the board in particular that for the Read Across America Day, Education Association of Norfolk wants to encourage school board members, as you are scheduling your opportunities to read, if you would share that with Mr. Hawkins and the EAN. They want to provide support to us as we're out in the various schools reading to children. So Mr. Hawkins called me this week. Wanted to make sure I was aware of the observance, and also to make sure that we knew that EAN was making themselves available to support us in that effort. So as you make your appointments, if you can let me know or let Mr. Hawkins know, then we can make sure that the EAN can provide all the support to us that they would like to do. So wanted to point that out.
And I believe Mr. Hawkins had his Dr. Seuss hat on earlier.
Oh, did-
Yeah.
He's
to promote the day.
He's
Yes.
early. Yes. With that, you may proceed to the recognitions.
Thank you. I'm proud to introduce our student from Granby High School, who's an IB student there, Thomas Bowes, who took on a special project through his Eagle Scouts program. I'm going to invite him to go to the podium and just tell us a little bit about your program.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here. I did my Eagle Scout project this past November at Granby Elementary School. And what I did is I built on top of a previous Eagle Scout project, which was an outdoor classroom that somebody in my troop had put in. And I built a 200-foot nature trail that goes along the fence line facing out towards the river that's back behind there. The trail ended up having we have an arbor that opens up with a trail, starts a trail. We're going to have some vines growing beside once they start growing in the springtime. We put an 8-foot bridge in, 8 different signs, over 125 donated plants. And there's going to be a couple trees, lots of some edible foods for the kids. And so the reason that I wanted to put this into the school is because I saw a school that was they have a very large field behind their school. And I thought that, this is great for kids playing, but how can they learn about nature? And so the trail is made of entirely native plants, and there's signs that talk about each of the different plants and how it's used in nature and how it's incorporated into our environment to make us live a happier and healthier life. So, as the students walk down the trail, they can get to see, oh gosh, there's just so many different kinds of plants. I think I have over 20 different species of plants, going from ferns to all the way up to blueberries and some different fruit-bearing trees. And I was hoping that this experience, this trail would be able to give the students there a way to kind of dive into nature in the backyard of the school every day. And it was totally made in part by the donations that I received from the city, from the Virginia Zoo, from Old Dominion University, from the Master Gardeners in Norfolk, and from the Habitat for Humanity. They really made it happen. They donated all the plants for the project. And by the end of the project, I was working with one of the guys in the city who works with all the horticulture, and he's going to preserve the trail in the upcoming years and maintain it and go back and clear it out and make sure it's all students still doing well. They're actually bringing in some bigger trees to put in from what I had donated, and they have plans for mulching the trail. So it was a very exciting experience for me, and I hope that the kids at the school have a wonderful experience having an addition to their school, and hopefully it will take away something about the importance of taking care of our environment. Thank you.
Superintendent and school board to come down and greet Mr. Bose.
As we do that, we're proud of you.
Yes, very proud.
I could use one of those in my yard.
Yeah.
Have your family with you. They're more than happy to
come on down. And while they're greeting the board and superintendent, I'll go ahead and start our next recognition, which is one of our very own here and our own staff, district leadership team. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Our next recognition is our very own Executive Director of Human Resources, Mr. Dandridge Timothy Billups. The American Association of School Personnel Administrators, in conjunction with the Battle for Kids organization, is pleased to announce that Dandridge Timothy Billups has completed the requirements to receive certification as a professional human capital leader in education. This certification recognizes a professional's mastery of a unique set of knowledge and skills at the intersection of education and human resources, designed to facilitate effective leadership and management in schools, districts, and other education organizations. Achieving this level of certification demonstrates a commitment to building capacity and essential human capital standards. This honor is especially noteworthy for Mr. Billups and the Norfolk Public Schools Division, as he becomes only the second human resources professional in the state of Virginia to currently attain this new certification. With this distinction, he joins a small elite group of HR professionals nationally to attain HR certification from all 4 national and international accrediting bodies, which include the Society of Human Resources Management, the Human Resources Certification Institute, the International Personnel Management Association, and the American Association of School Personnel Administrators. Congratulations to Mr. Billups and Norfolk Public Schools on this prestigious honor. And your Now, if you indulge me, last month we mentioned that February is School Board Appreciation Month. So, of course, we could not let this meeting go by without recognizing our wonderful school board. And I have Destiny here, who is a student at Granby too. That's what I thought. She's going to help me with this. But if you just indulge me one moment to read a proclamation from our governor, Ralph Norman, in recognition of School Board Appreciation Month. Certificate of recognition. By virtue of the authority vested by the Constitution of Virginia and the Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, there is hereby officially recognized School Board Appreciation Month. Whereas the education of Virginia's school-aged children is the foundation upon which the economic, social, and intellectual strength of our Commonwealth is built. And whereas locally elected and appointed school board members play an important role in our representative democracy, and the decisions of local school boards directly influence instruction in Virginia public schools. And whereas the leadership of our school boards affect the development and future of our children and ensures that students are prepared to compete in local, state, national, and global economies. And whereas local school boards devote themselves to providing a high-quality education for all students in the Commonwealth. Whereas school board members work with parents, businesses, educational professionals, and other community members to create and sustain an educational vision for our students. And whereas the Commonwealth of Virginia is proud of our educational system and appreciates the efforts of local school board members to make the Virginia public school system an excellent place which to educate our youth. And whereas the School Board Appreciation Month recognizes school board members for their leadership and support of public school system from which the entire Commonwealth benefits. Now, therefore, I, Ralph S. Northam, do hereby recognize February 2018 as School Board Appreciation Month in our Commonwealth of Virginia and call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. Can we please stand and give our school board appreciation? While Destiny is assisting me, I'm going to read a certificate from the Virginia School Boards Association that reads Certificate of Recognition and Appreciation of Dedication and Service to Excellence in Education on behalf of the students of the Commonwealth of Virginia, School Board Appreciation Month, February 2018, signed by Scott Albrecht, President, and Gina S. Patterson, Executive Director of the Virginia School Boards Association. Thank you, and thank you for all the help. Thank you, Destiny. Excuse me. And I also like to recognize our student school board representatives who aren't here this evening. I'm sure they're doing all of that homework that they that they have assigned. So we also like to recognize their contributions as well.
And at 4.8.
Yeah, that's how he maintains that 4, right? 4.7 straight A average. So, Mr. Jordan, school board members, that concludes our observances and recognitions.
All right. Thank you for all of that, and we're glad and honored to serve. Speaking of school board appreciation, I'd just like to acknowledge former delegate and former school board member Algie Howell, who's also with us this evening. At this time, we will proceed with the agenda. Next, we have citizens' comments on agenda and non-agenda items. We would ask that you would come to the microphone and come forward to the podium. You may adjust it. Please state your name, whether you have a child in the division or any other relevant information you would like to share with us. We ask that you state your position and give facts and other relevant data. If you represent a group or organization, you may ask others to rise and be recognized. If you have any written statements, you may give those to Ms. Banks, the clerk, for the record. Speakers are limited to one appearance of 3 minutes. When the clerk signals that your time is up, we ask that you please quickly end your comments and be seated. The school board does not respond to citizens' remarks at the time that they are given. Ms. Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. We have 11 speakers signed up this evening. Our first 2 speakers are Ms. Vivian Hester, followed by Lula Sears Rogers.
Good evening. I'm Vivian Hester, and I am here representing the concerned citizens of Booker T. Washington High School. And at this time, I'd like for the members of the concerned citizens of Booker T. Washington High School to please stand. Mr. Jordan and Dr. Boone and members of the school board, we are here again to say that we are very much concerned about Booker T. Washington High School. We realize that there are plans being made for other schools, but we are not quite sure what's happening to Booker T. But one thing we do know for sure is that Booker T. Washington High School, as it stands now, is not a school of the arts. According to any research that you do, a school of the arts will have photography classes, media arts, interior design, dance and music theaters, cyber design, graphic design, filmmaking and production, radio and TV journalism, and broadcasting and so forth. And we see none of those things right now at Booker T. Washington High School. So we've come with the question, and our first question is, where is the plan for Booker T. Washington High School? And where is Booker T. Washington High School on the budget for 2018? We also want to know when will we have the appropriate academic planning and funding for a School of the Arts? If we are going to be the School of the Arts, then we need to see how that's going to work out. And we want our children to no longer be set aside and given just enough to keep them quiet. We want our kids to have every opportunity to succeed. And we're also looking at the zoning. Right now, Booker T. Washington High School has the lowest population, and you continue to pull our children from communities close to us and send them into other schools, and we do not appreciate that. Because of the discriminatory practice that we have seen from this board, I call for the resignation of all of those who are planning to return to the board, because we believe that every child needs an opportunity, and we're not sure that we are able to get it with this board. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lula Sears Rogers, and I am a member of the Concerned Citizens and a 1959 graduate of Booker T. Washington High School, home of the mighty Bookers, a school named in honor of the great Booker Taliaferro Washington, who was an African-American educator, author, orator, and advisor to the presidents of the United States. In the state of Virginia, there have been several outstanding high schools: Maggie Walker, Peabody, Huntington, Phoenix, Armstrong, Crestwood, just to name a few. However, there were none greater than the great I.C. Norcom, Portsmouth, Virginia, and the great Booker T. Washington High School, Norfolk, Virginia. These two schools have stood the test of time through the era of segregation and massive resistance as well. And for a bit of history, just to let you know that on February the 2nd, 2019, it will be 60 years since the end of massive resistance in the state of Virginia, and the schools opened on that day in Norfolk. So what can we do to keep this historic landmark and home to thousands, even and around the Tidewater area, the nation and the world, a strong, vibrant, bright school again? The School of the Arts is great, but we need more to attract the young people who are passing us by. The Berkeley students, the Broad Creek students, and even surrounding students who are zoned for this great school, but somehow they are passing us by. The feeder schools, which are not accredited, are not helping to keep this school strong. Yes, we thank you for all that you did, all of the temporary conditions that we had, and you helped us last summer, but all of those were Band-Aids, and we know those Band-Aids will soon fall off. Please do not forget the fact that we are in need of a new building. It is written in our history that a building, this modern $8 million plant, was opened in September 1974, some 43 years ago. We really need a new building. So as you make plans for other schools in the city of Norfolk, please remember Booker T. Washington High School, and please place us at the top of your list. Help us preserve the legacy of this school so that we can continue to march on until victory is won. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next two speakers are the youth of NAACP of Norfolk, followed by Mary Anna White. And their names are the youth of NAACP are Destiny Harrell, Naya Parker, Jessica Vincent, Cottrell Jordan, and Jordan Parker.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Naya Parker. I'm president of the Norfolk Youth Chapter in NAACP, and I live in the Old Huntersville neighborhood, and I attend the Maury High School, and I'm a part of the Medical and Health Specialties program there. Superintendent Dr. Boone and school board members, we are here to let you know that we appreciate your hard work and support for the entire community at large. We would like to present you all of a small token of appreciation due to the fact that it is School Board Appreciation Month. May we come forth to present you your gift.
Yes, you may.
Thank you for the opportunity for letting us speak this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Give him 3 extra minutes.
Do I get additional time?
I'm gonna start it over. Go ahead.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Jessica Vincent. I live in the Coleman Place area, and I am currently a senior at Maury High School, also in the Medical and Health Specialties program. As the youth NAACP of Norfolk, we are asking for an opportunity to implement change in our community. We are willing to become more involved in our community for the sake of the youth of today, because we will be the future of tomorrow. We would like to offer 50 hours of community service through actions of becoming mentors within the Norfolk Public Schools by the end of the school year 2017 through 18. Our goal is to interact with 5th through 8th grade students and assist them with tutoring and mentoring. If we work together to strive for greatness, we can fulfill the NPS statement to diverse the community and help students develop skills for lifelong learning. As Gandhi stated, you must be the change you wish to see within the world, and that all starts with the eagerness to promote the growth within others. So we hope that the superintendent would take our request into consideration, and we thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Desney Harrell, and I'm an IB student at Granby High School. We would also like to acknowledge Janelle Banks during School Board Clerk Appreciation Week for a job well done assisting school board members, superintendent, administrators, school staff, students, and the community. May we come forth and present her gift?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So
So-
sweet, make me want to cry.
We don't comment at this time, but we would like to say thank you,
Thank you.
and
That's so
and
sweet.
recognize Ms. Armstead and others who have been in support of the NAACP Youth Branch. Thank you so much.
Dear distinguished members of the school board, clerk of the board, and distinguished guests, I'm Mariana White, a teacher at Granby, and I also am the secretary-treasurer of the EAN. I come today with a request that you ask the City Council to fund the NPS more fully. This means a raise for all teachers, administrators, and classified personnel, commensurate with the raises that Virginia Beach and Chesapeake are giving their people, or more, so that we can catch up with them. We do not want to continue to lose our experienced teachers. The kids need bright, young teachers and strong, experienced teachers the whole time to help them prepare for their future. We also need to be sure that no one working for the city while the kids are in school is living at the poverty level the way some of our classified staff are forced to do. We also need to increase funding for the variety of programs that we run. We need more funding so that we can cut down on class sizes. Students need more individual attention than they get in classes with 30 plus. Our ninth graders especially, frequently end up in large classes, and they need time, especially in English composition. We are proposing, at Granby, we have a teacher proposing that we would like to see a separate composition class in 9th and 11th grade, because while we can differentiate in literature, you really need smaller classes focused in on the kids' needs in writing. And so we are asking for that in particular. We also would like to see new textbooks in foreign language that are more student-friendly. We need more ESL classes, 9th grade deans we need back, in-school suspension, all of these things so that we can help train students to make good choices for their future. Security is an issue that we have very much on our minds, and I think we need smaller classes and discipline, such as these deans, so that we can play a fuller role at the school to support students in their time of success and in their difficulties. They need our instruction and support at a more individualized level. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak, and I hope for considering putting all our children first by funding our schools fully. We will need to ask the City Council to raise tax dollars in order to fully fund this beautiful enterprise of preparing our kids for their future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next two speakers are Cecile Myrick, followed by Will Huberdine.
Good evening, Dr. Boone, members of the board. My name is Cecile Myrick. I'm a resident of Norfolk, graduated of Booker T. Washington High School, and a very proud member of the Concerned Citizens for Booker T. I come before you this evening seeking answers. But first, I would like to say thank you for addressing some of our concerns at Booker T. Washington last spring. However, there's still work to be done. In light of the board and the city of Norfolk's decision to move forward with the implementation of the CTE program at Lake Taylor High School this fall, the first thought that entered my mind was, where did this leave Booker T? Dr. Boone, you stated at a meeting held at St. Helena Elementary School in Berkeley that both Booker T and Lake Taylor schools required a very large amount of money for renovations and upgrading. It's obvious that the money for Lake Taylor has been found, as the program is slated to begin in a few months. Does this mean that Booker T once again got left by the road? Once again, I ask you, How is Booker T expected to succeed or become competitive among the other high schools in Norfolk if it never received the attention and funding needed to become fully operational school of the arts? Once again, I ask you, is this the plan that will succeed to succeed? I'm sorry. Once again, I ask you, is the plan that it will not succeed and give the powers that be a reason to close the school? Do you have any immediate plans for the school? Is there a budget or plans for hiring the skilled teachers or instructors needed for the courses that the school should be offering as a school of the arts? What's the plan for the special equipment that's needed? And speaking of teachers, it is well known that the Norfolk teachers are overdue for a pay increase, and specialized teachers aren't cheap. When I talk about teachers, there's no disrespect intended toward the present teachers at Booker T. I have the highest respect and admiration for these teachers. I know them, I know their hearts, their dedication to the students and to their profession. That's part of the reason why we, the concerned citizens for Booker T, are there doing everything that we can to assist this staff and students. This being Black History Month saddens me because the picture that I look at is very bleak for our children. They appear to be living in the same gray area on the spectrum that I did more than 50 years ago when I attended Booker T. The difference is we knew not to expect anything better, but because that's how it was then, it shouldn't be now. There are young people out there with dreams of futures in the world of the arts, some of whom will not make the cut for the governor's school. They need to know, and they deserve to know, that all is not lost, because there is a school just as good and maybe even better, and that school is Booker T. Washington, the School of the Arts. My last question to you is, Booker T, will Booker T ever become that reality for those young people? My answer is, you betcha.
Thank you.
Mr. Huberdine? Okay, next we'll hear from Mr. James Jarman Jr., followed by Mr. Philip Hawkins Jr.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Before I even start, I want to say I lapsed to just say appreciate the school board and the hard work that y'all do, and recognize that this month is the month to recognize that. I do recognize y'all are overtasked and have a lot of work to do. Now on with what I need to address here. This is my son. This is my skin in the game on the south side. I reside at 5503 Barn Hollow Road in the Poplar Hall section of Norfolk. And we went to the south side for the STEM, which is, for the largest portion, non-existent. Rather than complain, I would say this. The good news is I had lunch with my child on Wednesday, and there was no fight to break up. On Monday, the one security officer was distracted breaking up one fight while I broke up another one that was going on behind his back. I think this exemplifies the need for more than one officer and some resource officers. In this task force, I learned that the police officers, I met them personally, tasked with that area, were willing to volunteer and work in that school. But the analogy that I would lead you is, when your brakes wear out in your car, you get a warning indicator. If you keep driving, you replace the brakes, the rotor, and the whole shebang. It's a lot more expensive to fix later than sooner. This child goes to school every day. I equip him with the minimums, my responsibility. Well-groomed, a pressed shirt. There's no sagging in my house. There's a belt on. Okay? Parents do that. This might not be a popular statement, but delinquent parents typically raise delinquent kids. I do my part. When he gets to school, I'm forced every morning to take my son's hand and pray. Please, Lord, protect this child and provide for him today. Don't let a student or somebody come in there and gun him down. Don't let fights and disparaging things happen. Every day. That's what I do every morning. When I turn them over to the school, the teachers take over. Those teachers are overtasked. They have a monumental task there in those situations. I feel for them. We call council and the school board and the people of affluence the ivory tower. The reason you don't see the teachers here because they scared of a retaliation if they speak out. So I speak for them. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not afraid. I would ask that y'all leave the ivory tower unannounced, and one by one visit the school on your own unannounced and see what those teachers and staff and administration have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. School Board Chair, Mr. Jordan, Vice Chair, Dr. Noel Gabriel, members of the Norfolk School Board, Superintendent Dr. Boone, and NPS administrative team. My name is Philip Hawkins, Jr., and I am the President of the Education Association of Norfolk, the EAN. I am also a pre-kindergarten 3-year-old teacher, early childhood elementary education teacher, and grade level chair at the PB Young Senior Elementary School with Norfolk. First of all, I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to also acknowledge and reflect the recent events that have occurred in our country, which has affected every public school in this nation, again, since February 14th. And of course, we have seen things come here in Norfolk. But on behalf of the EAN, our thoughts and our prayers do go out to our families, to the families of the 17 victims, which were students and staff members of the Marjorie Stoneman High School tragedy in Parkland, Florida. While we recognize the real world that we do live in now with gun violence and the need to properly support citizens with mental illness, we must never lose our resolve to always protect our children and innocent men and women in our institutions of learning, which are the cornerstones of our society. We must fight for better laws to limit and restrict children, criminals, and those who have mental illness and impairments from getting guns and weapons to harm themselves or others. Please know that the Education Association of Norfolk will continue to fight and advocate for federal, state, and local legislation and policies that will protect our children, protect our schools, and protect our society. I would like to thank our Norfolk Public Schools leaders, as we heard earlier, for taking swift action to protect our students and our staff and working collaboratively with our law enforcement and city officials here in Norfolk to address any concerns that came up or that may come up in the future. Please know that EAN is here to support the work that you do as a collaborative team, and with you we will accomplish what is best for our students, the education professionals, support staff, and our families. And of course, my other reason to speak tonight has already been given. Thank you, Chairman Jordan and school board members, school board clerk. It's time to grab your hat. Come on now. It's already been alluded to. Grab your hat and let's read with the cat. The NEA Read Across America is coming, as you know, on Friday, March 2nd, 2018. And on behalf of the EAN and the National Education Association, we are building a nation of readers through this signature program in its 20th year. And now this year's theme is celebrating the nation of diverse readers. As president of the EAN, you are all again cordially invited, the community is invited, to come and join us in Norfolk and choose a school to come and read to our students. And our leaders will be there to support you in any way that we can. And we're going to continue to raise our readers, raise our nation, and make sure that our students can be the best that they can be across this district and in this nation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our last two speakers are Mr. Malcolm Avery, followed by the Honorable Algie T. Howell.
Malcolm Avery, longtime retired teacher, professor, coach, but more so than that, I'm a concerned member and alumnus of Booker T. Washington High School. I was sitting there trying to think of a way to introduce myself without being egotistic. It's not about me. But I must tell you that I was at Booker T in the 60s when Booker T was using used books from Maury and Norview. How do I know that? Because in my book that I was using, there were autographs from Maury, autographs from Norview. So this was the Band-Aid that was given to our students back then. So now we are here today in 2018. And we have been given Band-Aids for the last, I've been before this body before about some very positive things, but yet and still I've been here asking for some considerations for Booker T. Washington High School, not to be giving us anything other than what's necessary, what's needed. And my colleagues before me have talked about and have given you a very good introduction as to the way we feel. Concerned members, I'm the president of the BTW Foundation, still engaged. And what I have provided with the clerk is some questions, and I don't need to stand here and read those questions to you because all that they would be doing was going over the same things that we have already alluded to. So I would ask that you would read, Madam Clerk, if each one of the board members have a copy of.
Have a copy.
And take these things into consideration again. And if I have to, I'll be back next week. And I'm at your disposal. Because it doesn't seem like we are able to get anything done. Certainly we have done some things like power wash the building. We've started with the mold and the other things that are internal. The sound system, the curtains, the lights. If you walk around Booker T right now, if you walk by Booker T right now, it's the darkest place in Tidewater on Park Avenue. All of the lights around the school that should be lit up are out. Why? And we keep coming back asking for these things, and what is it going to take? What will it take? The last piece on this paper, on this letter, talks about our athletic facilities. The schools, the rest of the schools are taking our athletes away in the name of the STEM program or some other programs at other schools. They're robbing our building of the student athletes, and they're getting away with it. What else can I say? I just hope that I don't have to, I'm not going to have too many more years to be coming back for the same thing. I've asked some and showed others a floor plan for, we need softball fields. There's a piece of land behind the school that we ought to have. We just keep talking about things that we need, but we getting no results. And if anything else I can say, ladies and gentlemen, other than
We're just tired.
yeah, it's beyond getting tired. We don't need to be getting tired to some other adults. When the kids came up, I'm watching the board members' faces when the youth came up, and they came up and you guys were so bright, and facial expression was great. But when the adults came up, there was something different. Seemed like, do you want to hear what we got to say? Can we do anything about it? Ladies and gentlemen, please help us maintain our status in compliance and our certification. And you can help us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Al Howell, as you've already heard. I struggled to get here tonight because I thought it was very important that I be here. I don't have any complaints. My mother told me about 70 years ago, I guess it may have been longer. She said, Algie, she said, give people their flowers while they're still alive so they can smell them. I came here to commend this board, to commend the teachers in the city of Norfolk because of something that happened to me. Oh, by the way, Rodney, I'm retired now, fully retired. So everything I'll be doing now would be what I'm here engaged in now. Friday before last, I read an article in the Virginia Pilot. I'm sure that most of you read it. It had to do with something with Black History Month, where they had surveyed all the high school graduates. Well, not all of them, but they took a survey of high school graduates in the United States, and only 8% of the students that they surveyed knew the correct answer to this question. Rodney, you probably read the article. The question was, what is the main cause, or what was the primary issue surrounding the Civil War? And only 8% of the students in the United States of America graduating from college knew that. Some of you might know that for more than 60 years, I've been, by the way, is anyone here over 80? Anyone here 80? Okay, well, I just celebrated my 80th birthday, so that makes me the oldest person. There was a little boy in the barbershop getting his hair cut, and I asked him the same question that those students had been asked throughout America. What was the main issue surrounding the Civil War? And guess what? He knew the answer. I asked him, I said, where do you go to school? He said, I go to Granby Elementary. I said, what grade are you in? He says, I'm in the 5th grade. I said, you know what? I'm coming over to visit your school Monday. Monday was Monday before last. The principal there, when she heard my voice in the audience, and I'm not going to call any names, she recognized my voice, and she came up, she said, Mr. Howell. She grabbed me, and we embraced. She says, your daughter and I taught in the same school many years ago. I said, well, what I'm here for? I told this little boy that I was coming by to visit his school, and I told her what his name. Can I finish?
Oh, yeah.
She graciously took me by the classroom, and when he saw me, he just bubbled over. He said, oh, my God, he's here. I asked that class the same question, and board members, this is important. More than 70% of the students in that class raised their hand. This is a 5th grade class. They knew the answer. She took me to the other 2 5th grade classes. I asked the same question again. 70% or more of the students in there knew the answer to that question. Chairman Board Jordan and members of the board, and for everyone here. Having been a former history teacher myself, many years ago I heard talk about Booker T. Washington High School. Booker T. Washington High School prepared me, under Mr. Preston, to be the first black to teach social studies at the all-white Hampton High School in 1967 when I went there. But I want you to know, Chairman Jordan, that I'm retired now. And, you know, I'm going to do everything I can to help promote. I've been a teacher, I've been a board member, I've been a legislator, I've been a member of the parole board. But when you don't know until you're in these positions what you have to go through. I know. I thank you, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come back here. And you know the principal. I'm not going to call her name. And Dr. Boone, you probably know her too. I didn't talk about it. I started to call you, but I didn't, because I don't like to make a proud announcement to these things. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Jordan, that concludes our speakers that have signed up.
Was there anyone who had wished to sign up and did not have the opportunity to do so? With that, sir?
I was going to try to follow that. I don't think so.
We thank you for your comments and your letters, and we do indeed take them to heart, and we'll be following up appropriately. Next on our agenda, excuse me one moment to log in again. It's the approval of the consent agenda. Members of the board, you see the consent agenda before you. Is there any member of the board that would like to have an item on the consent agenda pulled and considered separately? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a second.
I second.
Moved by Mrs. Doyle, seconded by Ms. Wagner. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, Ms. Banks, if you call the roll.
Ms. Basine?
Aye.
Ms. Doyle?
Aye.
Dr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Reverend Haywood?
Aye.
Dr. Robinson?
Aye.
Ms. Wagner?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye. Moving on to the decision discussion agenda. Next is policy revision for advisory committees to the school board. As the board knows and the public may not know, we began today at 2 o'clock with a work session, and during that work session we discussed this policy. Is there any further discussion that's required at this time regarding the policy, or any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the policy as presented by the policy committee?
I make a motion to approve the policy as presented by the policy committee.
I have a second.
Second that motion.
All right, moved by Ms. Doyle, seconded by Ms. Basine. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, Ms. Banks, if you call the roll.
Ms. Basine?
Aye.
Ms. Doyle?
Aye.
Dr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Reverend Haywood?
Aye.
Dr. Robinson?
Aye.
Ms. Wagner?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye. Next, we have a recommendation that we have discussed for at least a couple of months now, if not longer, as part of our educational planning work related to a pathway feeder pattern change for students of St. Helena High School. Before I go forward, Dr. Boone, is there any additional update or just a reminder that you'd like to share with us in terms of this recommendation and the rationale behind it?
The educational planning work that is underway with the school system, we presented a few different recommendations, some that we've asked the board to hold until later this spring. This particular recommendation begins to address the board's goal of increasing diversity in our schools, particularly socioeconomic diversity. And it is a recommendation that the pathway for middle and high school for St. Helena School become Blair and Maury High School.
All right, we've had quite a bit of discussion on this. Is there see if we can get a motion in a second, if there be any additional discussion. Is there a motion for us to approve the recommendation before us?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the school board change the feeder pattern of St. Helena School to the Blair-Morey feeder pattern.
Mhm.
And make that motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Moved by Reverend Haywood, seconded by Mrs. Doyle. Any additional discussion the board would like to have on this recommendation? All right. Hearing none, Ms. Banks, if you call the roll, please.
Ms. Basine?
Aye.
Ms. Doyle?
Aye.
Dr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Reverend Haywood?
Aye.
Dr. Robinson?
Aye.
Ms. Wagner?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye. Next on the agenda, we have a recommendation from Dr. Boone related to school bus drivers hourly rate increase. Again, we also received an update on this and had a discussion about it earlier today. But I'd like for Dr. Boone to have an opportunity to share with us again the recommendation and the rationale, and then we can proceed.
Currently, there are 42 vacancies for bus drivers of our 250 bus driver positions we have available. One of our biggest issues with the drivers, being able to retain drivers who are trained and gain a great skill set here with Norfolk Public Schools, deals with the salary. And so the recommendation that we have made to the school board is to effect an hourly rate increase from $13.02 to $13.68 effective March 1st, and that will be an increase of roughly $725 annually, and move the annual pay to $15,021 for the majority of our drivers. As I stated earlier, bus drivers are usually the first NPS employee that our students see days, and usually the last one that they see days, and they play a critical role. And we certainly, as we go into spring hiring for retirements and vacancies that are there, we also want to be able to retain the drivers that we have, and also hopefully use this as an opportunity to recruit drivers that will stay with us and not leave for higher salaries.
So we have discussed this earlier and had a presentation on it. I'd like to get a motion for us to approve, and then we can have, or a motion in any way that board members would like to make, and then we can have additional discussion as needed and then act on the motion. Do I have a motion at this time?
I make a motion to adopt the budget recommendation to increase the school bus driver's hourly rate.
All right. Second. All right. Moved by Ms. Doyle, second by Dr. Gabriel. Any further discussion or questions? Dr. Robinson?
I support this motion, but I have a question about the rest of the classified staff. Will they be addressed in the upcoming budget?
You will recall with the pay and comp study that we presented to the board a little over a year ago, that the recommendation to the board, and one of which the board adopted in its budget to council, was to address salaries across all employee groups and not just do teachers and delayed classified personnel. Our bus drivers represent a group that we're challenged in terms of filling the vacancies. And so that was the crisis for this. When the board will receive the superintendent's proposed budget on March 7th, and we again will address pay and comp recommendations that will cross all employee groups, not just one group or the other.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that was clear. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Hearing none, Ms. Banks, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Basine?
Aye.
Ms. Doyle?
Aye.
Dr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Reverend Haywood?
Aye.
Dr. Robinson?
Aye.
Ms. Wagner?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye. Next, we have the monthly financial reports. Dr. Boone?
Thank you. I'll ask Ms. Ingram to come up and share this month's financial report.
Good evening, Mr. Jordan, Dr. Gabriel, school board members, and Dr. Boone. I'm going to give you a very brief high-level report of the financials at the end of January 31st, which was the 7th month of the school year. Revenues received as of the end of January was $170.7 million, or 52.5% of our budget. And this compares to 50.6% for the same time period last year and 53.3% in 2016. On the expenditure side, at the end of January, we had expended approximately $160 million, or 49% of our budget. And that compared to 51% last school year and 52.7% for 2016. There were no budget transfers during the month of January that exceeded $50,000 or more. And behind that is just a different presentation, as always, giving you more breakdown of the revenue categories and the expenditure categories. And also attached to that is giving you some explanation of some variances. Are there any questions?
Questions for Ms. Ingram? Anything additional from you, Ms. Ingram?
No, sir.
All right, if not, is there a motion for us to approve the monthly financial report as presented and shared?
I move that we approve the monthly financial report as presented.
All right, moved by Dr. Gabriel, second by Mrs. Wagner. Any additional discussion or questions on the monthly financial reports? All right, hearing none, Ms. Banks, if you call a roll, please.
Ms. Basine?
Aye.
Ms. Doyle? Aye. Dr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Reverend Haywood?
Aye.
Dr. Robinson?
Aye.
Ms. Wagner?
Aye.
Mr. Jordan?
Aye. Last item we have on the agenda today is matters of the board. As I mentioned a moment ago, we gathered at 2 p.m. to continue our discussions related to our educational planning, our school board budget, and in addition to some of the other items that we talked about earlier. In leaving that work session, we had some takeaways, and I just wanted to again give the board an opportunity for any further discussions with Dr. Boone, or give Dr. Boone and her team any additional opportunity to further elaborate on what we discussed earlier today. But among the takeaways, as we talked about earlier from the conversation, we actually spent a great deal of time discussing our educational planning and our and some opportunities related to our CT effort and the possibility and discussion of having the Career and Technical Education High School located at Booker T, and significant discussion around the specialty program there, the arts and the STEAM, and we said that we would ensure that we had a consensus to give direction to the superintendent and her administrative team to give further consideration and drill down as it relates to that. We discussed the facility itself, additional land usage, specialty program staffing, and a variety of other related matters towards ensuring the excellence at Booker T. So first I want to pause there and to see if there's any further discussion or questions that the board has in regards to that discussion that we had earlier and the direction where that's concerned. Dr. Boone, any questions you have for the board at this time?
No, other than, again, the consensus of the board of which direction we should go. Should we stay the course, or should we pivot to the Booker T recommendation?
Right. So, Reverend Haywood.
Yes, I'd just like to make a comment. It was very interesting to me to hear some of the comments from the advocates of Booker T, very passionate. Some of the comments that they have made were some of the very comments that the board members made in that discussion, and also some of the issues that Norfolk Public Schools has been addressing quietly behind the scenes. And so I thought that this whole discussion is very timely, because we too would like to see, and this is the comment that I made, that Booker T. Washington be a school of fine arts that is unprecedented in this area, which then would require that we put the kind of resources into it, not only into Booker T, but into its feeder schools, that would make it that type of great school, for instance, like the Duke Ellington School of Fine Arts in Washington, D.C. So we had this discussion, and there is the will of the board and the desire of this board to really see the legacy of Booker T continue strongly in a fine arts high school. I think that Dr. Boone has been very wise in having her staff study those issues. They too have been able to identify the very same issues that you have identified in terms of the staffing of the school, the resources of the school. So I'm confident that these issues will be addressed, and that we will see in our lifetime a Booker T that every one of us can be proud of. I think that takes time, but there is a great will to see that happen. So I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged by what the administration of Norfolk Public Schools has done. And Mr. Chairman, if I might also add that I appreciate the words of the Honorable Algie Howe. You know, we've come to his office many a time advocating for Norfolk Public Schools and the funding that is necessary to do these kinds of things. And he's been very gracious to us. He has helped us to understand. And I think that he knows things that we know because he has been a former school board member, so he understands. And I appreciate the words of encouragement that he gave us. Thank you.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes, as a proud 69 graduate of Booker T. Washington High School, I was glad to hear from the board today, and we've had the discussion as to what some of the ideas put forth that we would do for Booker T. I was proud to see my concerned citizens here because they've asked me questions over and over and over again, and I've shared some of those questions with the board. We have addressed some of those questions today, and I missed the hours earlier, but I was told that even prior to my coming, there were some issues that were discussed in terms of Booker T. Washington High School. One of the questions that I have brought up to the board, and I will share, were timetables and benchmarks, and those were my concerns. And I understand that the funding is a major part in terms of getting Booker T up to where it should be, strengthen that program so that we will be on the same page and on the same level with the other high schools. Again, I do commend the board for addressing many of the questions that you all have given to me and that I've shared with them. Again, I am a proud Booker, and I'm proud to see the citizens of Norfolk and the alumni come and share their concerns and let the community know that we're here, we're in place, and that we're here to stay, and the legacy will live on forever. And I think the board recognizes that. And I appreciate the board, and I appreciate you all for coming.
Any additional comments in regards to the consensus direction, or as Dr. Boone described it, the shift? Dr. Gabriel.
As I had mentioned a little bit earlier during our discussion meeting, the topic of having a comprehensive technical high school located at Booker T. Washington wasn't a new idea, but it was one that had been thought about, and I'm glad that we are able to actually bring together a solution for a school that no school should feel like their program is not up to par with the rest. No students in that program should feel that way. And I truly do feel that if we can creatively and cooperatively work together with the city and the joint venture that it is has for a vision, that we can marry the vision of education with the vision of successful city redevelopment and have a, as Mr. Doyle said, a win-win situation for all. The money is going to be very important, and so when we come together and have to bring this to our city council members for discussion and from within our division, we all need to stand united in order to advocate and rally around what we want best for our students and our staff.
Any other comments at this time? So I just want to, add one of the more difficult things to do as a school board member is to, have conversations around our responsibility for the division as a whole, as well as recognizing individual needs. I was just speaking to the PTA at Blair last week about the St. Helena feeder pathway, and in the conversation with them, I shared with them that I don't pander well, and so I could not, come with a handful of promises, but try to share with them the rationale behind some of the work that we were doing, and questions would come up. Well, if you do this, will the resources follow? And I was sharing with them that we were in the process of going through our budget discussion, and that will happen, as Dr. Boone mentioned earlier, starting March 7th. What we're actually talking about in terms of this pivot is inclusive of Booker T and CTE, but really falls in the context of all of our educational planning, how we provide supports for all of our high schools and the feeder pathways associated with that. And so this pivot that we are discussing is really about an opportunity with the work that's happening in the St. Paul's Quadrant, which does have a direct impact on schools, elementary schools that serve that area, such as Tyler Park Elementary, PBL, Jaycox, Richard Bowling, and others, the middle school of Ruffner, and the high school of Booker T. Part of what we've talked about really over the last several months is redevelopment in the city does have an impact, and some of the enrollment, or at least what we see in the live-in district of Booker T, has been impacted by the redevelopment in Broad Creek, and we've seen that impact in other areas where families have moved either by choice or by no other option. So our conversation is really about how do we get out in front and be bold with the opportunity, with the support of the business community, the school system, and the city, to make sure that, as I said with the families over at Blair, that where we may have made missteps in the past, we don't repeat those same missteps again in the present towards the future. So this conversation, this pivot that we've talked about in public, is really about supporting efforts as the business community has worked with us on CTE. It also involves discussions around early childhood learning and opportunities that we have there for perhaps some enhanced educational opportunities, even beginning in pre-K and before, and as that works its way up through the entire feeder pattern. As Dr. Gabriel said, we don't know where it may go in terms of support from the city council and our partners, but we believe that we do have an opportunity here, and that's what we are exploring. And even if we find that this pivot does not take place, what we discussed earlier is the work and the commitment that Dr. Boone and her team have been working, not only in reference to Booker T. Washington High School, but we also talked about Maury and Lake Taylor and Granby and Norview as well. And so we recognize, at least I know I do, and I'm confident the board does, about these equity issues because we've been committed to putting them forward. And so many of the concerns that are being brought to us, that I'm happy are being brought to us, I say to folks all the time, I appreciate the pressure. But I think because of our commitment to be transparent and put the data forward, it raises the very discussion that we're having. So, I'm thankful for that. Unless somebody says otherwise, it sounds like we are supporting the pivot and the strategic business planning effort in partnership with the business community and the city as we go forward and have discussions during our budget towards changing the focus for the CTE program with the emphasis at Booker T, residing at Booker T, in addition to the STEAM program, which includes the standing up of the excellent arts program that we talked about earlier. And so I know that there are some copies of the presentation that we received earlier. We're going to have those available for members of the public, and just invite people to go and watch the work session. They can go on Board Docs and also get that information. But Dr. Boone, unless I hear otherwise, it seems like we have that consensus for that pivot. And so if there's any additional questions or concerns or thoughts you like the board to have in that regard, we welcome it now, and we would welcome it moving forward.
We have our marching orders, and as we said earlier, we have begun the thought about this, should this be the board's direction to us, and we'll be coming back to the board with details and next steps. But again, one of the things for everyone who's watching or in attendance is that the framework and the core of the Comprehensive CTE School is in place. Those 4 academies have been vetted over the last 5 to 7 years, and those are fully defined. Those will continue to be the pathways and the academies that will be at a CTE school at Booker T, along with the enhanced arts program. And so that legwork is done. It's now, what do we do around any boundary changes, how we phase in the work, just as we had been spending the time the better part of this year and the prior year as moving this toward Lake Taylor High School. We also said earlier there will be the conversation around the governance structure for the school, and so there's a lot of work that will be coming forward. It is our intent to have any recommended boundary changes in those pieces as part, ready for school board vote by the second meeting in April. And community conversations around any high school boundary changes that are impacted by this decision would also occur between now and that April timeframe.
Yes, and you really hit on the other takeaways that I just wanted to reshare with the board from earlier. You just mentioned the governing committee. We discussed that. We acknowledged the April updates that would be coming forward. We did have a discussion about the educational specification community engagement work that's going to be happening at Maury High School. And we also are going to receive updates in terms of how all this fits in with the educational planning task force and upcoming meeting dates with them. One thing that on this piece, and I'll ask if any board member has anything else they'd like to bring forward that I forgot to share with the board earlier, in terms of conversations that I was having with the business community about the possibility of this shift. I was asked how did I think the Booker T. Washington family or the African American community or the east side of the city would respond to the possibility of the top-notch CTE program being considered at Booker T. And I shared with them, I said, I wasn't sure. I knew that there was a commitment to excellence. I knew that if anyone understood the significance between Booker T. Washington and the man and his philosophy and the history of Booker T, it would be the Booker T alumni. But I also said to him that if anybody was going to take the heat for it, I would take the heat for it. So the letters and the comments that were made earlier, at least for me, have proven that to be true. And but I'm just appreciative of the board and administration for consideration, of this pivot. But as we talked about earlier, and as Dr. Gabriel said, it's really going to take us working together to make sure that we can demonstrate to the city, to the public at large, what our resource needs are. Something that Dr. Boone mentioned earlier, and I know she's going to talk about again next month. All these things that we're talking about, whether it's the specialty programs at Booker T or any of our high schools, the ongoing efforts to shore up our middle and elementary schools, the support for safety and security, all of those things are dependent upon, as a board and as a community, being able to also get the support of our council who funds us and the community at large to say that we value these things and we want these things not only for the schools where we have personal connections, but for the division as a whole. And so if we're going to make this heavy lift and build public will for it, we really need to work together. And that's going to be our pledge. We don't know yet what the superintendent may recommend, but we know it's going to have some tough decisions for us to make. We've been trying to make decisions with an equity lens, and we'll see how that goes as we work through the next 30 days. But I just wanted to put that out there and share that as well, and just be as open and honest about that as possible. With that, is there any other matter of the board at this time that that we need to address? All right. Ms. Banks, anything else? All right. So we get to go home?
Yes.
All right. Meeting adjourned.